Good morning, good morning, good morning, Los Angeles. How you doing? Y'all feeling good? Feeling good? We on time? We like that, we like that, we like that. So first, I want to say my name is Ray Cunningham. I am here representing the Source LA and those good brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome to a community conversation with Mayor Karen Bass. Woo! And it is powered by the Source LA. Let's give it up for Roxy. This is an intimate, solutions-driven gathering where your voices, will take center stage. Today is more than just a talk. It's about turning ideas into action. So this is a conversation, which means not only will Roxy be asking questions, you all can ask the mayor questions as well. But we're going to keep some order in here, okay? We got security in here, so we're going to keep some order, okay? All right. So we are deeply honored to have you here, Mayor Bass. You are a true public servant and history maker. You are the first woman and only second Black Angelino to lead this city, okay? And you've been tackling some of LA's toughest issues with determination, and we are just excited to have you here with us this morning, okay? Now, y'all give it up for Mayor Bass. And to my right, we have the lady of the hour as well, Miss Roxy Woolley. Y'all give it up for Miss Roxy Woolley. She's always in the community. She's always working. She's making conversations. You getting people jobs. You giving them housing, funding. I love you. Okay, guys, so we're going to get the conversation started again. Roxy's going to start it off, and there will be a Q&A period where you guys can ask the mayor some questions. But let's keep it cute, okay? All right.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Community Conversations with Mayor Beth. So just a couple of housekeeping rules. Like Ray said, we definitely want to keep it cute. If you don't know, you're going to know I'm a huge advocate and supporter of Mayor Bass. So we are here today for an important conversation. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but I'm going to keep it short because this is really about the community and this is really about you guys. So I know you guys have some questions. I know you guys may have some concerns, and she's here in the flesh, ready to answer those questions for you, okay? So I went to a house meeting. Shout out to Marie with Violet Nayor. I went to her house meeting, and it was amazing. I just couldn't believe how intimate the house meeting was. That's where I met Marissa. And I was like, how can I do one of these? Because the community relies on me so heavily about wanting to know certain things, right? And she said, girl, I got you. And she set it up, and we're here today. So shout out to Marissa. Shout out to Nicole. Thank you both for making this happen. This is so important for the community. Thank you for believing in me and for believing in my mission. So thank you. We're going to dive right on in. All right, Mayor Bass. So for the first time ever, Los Angeles has experienced 2 consecutive years of declining homelessness. What key shifts in policy or approach do you believe made this possible, and how do you plan to sustain this momentum long term?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, and thank all of you for coming out on a Saturday morning. You could be doing a lot of things. You could be doing nothing, relaxing on Saturday morning, but instead you took time to come here. And it's been a long time since I've been here, but I love the gathering spot. I think it's one of the nicest places in our community. And I also love the development on Adams. It's like every time I drive by, Adams looks great. But I do want to call out 2 people on my staff, Marissa and Nicole. Where's Nicole? Where did Nicole go? Oh, there she is. She's hiding. Now, she's over there because she's working so hard. That's why she wasn't up front. But I just want to thank the 2 of you for putting this on. You knew that this was something I would really appreciate. And by the way, I love times like this. I love the opportunity to just have a frank conversation. I don't care what you ask me. I don't care what your opinions are. We can get real. And if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. But give it up. Marissa and Nicole. So let me just say that I'm hoping now, after 2.5 years in this office, that people will actually believe why I ran. And I ran because of 46,000 people on our streets. I ran because black folk are 9% of LA and over 30% of the people who are on our streets. To me, and then the other 40% are Latino. So homelessness is a black and brown issue. My concern is that we were getting ready to go into another direction, a punitive direction. To me, the people on our streets, that is a humanitarian crisis. And so in my first day after I was sworn in, I declared a state of emergency, which allowed me to do a lot of things beyond my normal capacity as mayor, to expedite, to fast track, and to get people off the streets. And so that's what we've been doing. We have a team of folks. I'm not sure if anybody from the team is here, but we have about 18 people who go out. All of them have lived experience on some level: incarceration, homelessness, addiction, foster care, trafficking, you name it. And one of the things that we have proved in the last couple of years is that it's easy to get people off the streets. It's easy. Our people do not want to be on those streets. That is a myth. Now, I will tell you, though, and all of you know this, there's a percentage of folks who are out there that are so profoundly ill, they don't even know they're out there. And that's a very small category. That's not the majority of folks. And so that the focus on street homelessness was really critical. But let me just tell you something. What I learned, and it took me a few months to learn this, I didn't realize that what I was doing was pissing people off, okay? It really has pissed people off, because there is sentiment in this county amongst a lot of people that it's not a bad thing for people to be on the streets. That most importantly, we need to build affordable housing, and anything less than that, leave it alone. I am sorry. My people should never be on the streets. The nation's second largest city, never. In the richest country in the history of the world, in my opinion, the only people who rigidly follow that belief go home to a bed every night. Because I will never accept our people being on the street. So I didn't realize that I was pissing people off, and that has caused some some challenges along the way. The other thing I didn't realize is that there's a whole lot of really stupid policies that keep people homeless or make people homeless. So I want to tell you two, and then, you know, I could talk forever on this, so you'll have to stop me. I'll just stop at two. I mean, this is so passionate for me because it just is. I mean, Phil, everybody know Phil Wilson. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Warrior, Phil. Phil and I go back too many decades. But we remember, and there's a lot of you in this audience who, since you were born, people have been on the streets. This has not, our people have not always slept on the streets, okay? This is a relatively new phenomena. But I think a lot of policies were old, and maybe they made sense way back when. So in order for somebody to get housing, you have to prove your income. Well, if I've been in a tent for 5 years, how do I prove nothing? Well, I can't give you housing until you have a government-issued ID. Well, if you would give me an address, I'd have a government-issued ID. So people literally stay on the streets until they get a government-issued ID and until they can prove nothing. So it took a lot of advocacy, but we got those policies changed. One of the worst policies is veterans homelessness. We had, at the beginning of this year, 3,000 vouchers for veterans that we wouldn't give to veterans. Because if you were a veteran and you took your disability benefits, we counted that as your income. And then we said you made too much money. So rather than give you a voucher, we would keep the vouchers, and they've just been sitting there. So that took a lot of advocacy. I got involved in the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I chair the National Committee on Homelessness. So we took 100 mayors to D.C., to the White House, to the House, and to the Senate. It took about a year, but we were able to get that waived, and that was under the Biden administration. And when I met with the VA secretary under Trump, you know, I spent 12 years in Congress, and fortunately, he was one of my colleagues, and so he has agreed to continue that policy. So now we're down to about 1,400 vouchers because we've been getting, you know, people housed. So that's just a sample of a lot of policy. So this issue is complex. The other thing I have to mention is that I get tired of hearing people talk about substance abuse and mental illness. That's not, first of all, you can develop substance abuse and mental illness. You try sleeping on the streets for a month and tell me you're not medicating and your mental health has not deteriorated. So there's a lot of people on our streets that are on our streets because they had diabetes, because they had cancer, because they had heart disease, they miss work, they lost their insurance, they lost their housing. So it's not just that everybody is on the street because they use drugs. So you better stop me now.
Thank you, Mary Bass. I just feel like that was so important to touch on as a formerly single homeless mom who was able to get on my feet, which is the reason why the Source LA was born. That's a resource because I went through it. And so again, just want to thank you for that. We're going to slide over to the fires. The fires in Altadena and Palisades earlier this year left many residents shaken. What steps are being taken to ensure equitable disaster recovery for lower income residents who may not have insurance or access to temporary housing after events like this?
So let me just state for the record, I only represent Palisades. So you never hear me talk about Altadena, and I always feel like I have to qualify that, especially amongst our folks. It's not that I don't care about Altadena, but I think a lot of people didn't realize that Altadena is not in the city of Los Angeles. It's not a city. Altadena is like Leimert Park or Ladera Heights. It's an unincorporated area. And so they don't have a mayor or a city council. So you will only hear me talk about the Palisades. And there's a lot of complications. Now, first of all, the recovery, meaning the removal of the debris and all of that, has happened at lightning speed. Ironically, because the Trump administration poured resources on us. So that went really fast. We had an unprecedented number of Army Corps of Engineers here, and they were able to do it like 6 to 12 months ahead of what happened in other fires. And then now the rebuilding process, what I did and was done on a county level too, is fast-track the rebuilding, so tried to remove every possible evidence of red tape so that people could get up and running fast. And so we have over 260 people who are ready to rebuild right now. People are putting up structures now. We have about 700 people in the queue. And when I'm referring to that, it's actually not people, it's 700 applications for permits. So we're moving through it. Challenges every step of the way, but things are progressing. The biggest stumbling block that I cannot address as mayor is the insurance. So a lot of the insurance companies had canceled people before the fires. So a lot of people didn't have any insurance. One thing I've learned as mayor, though, I'm responsible for everything. Everything. It's like, why is it only 80 degrees today? It's supposed to be hotter. I'm like it wasn't that way when I was in Congress, because see, nobody knows what the congressperson does anyway. So I wasn't used to, being asked why eggs cost so much.
And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because I be all in your comments, okay? And I be getting mad because I'm like, do you guys know what the mayor does?
The haters.
The haters.
Ouch. The bots. Yeah. One of these days I'll learn what a bot is, but all I know is that I know it's not real. That much I know. But I will tell you, and you guys know this, I had a tough time in the beginning of the year. It was like, I didn't even go. There were some parts of town I didn't even go in. This part of town I was in all the time, though. I felt safe here. I didn't necessarily feel safe everywhere. But it was, it was very tough. But I do understand, though. Sometimes you have to have levity. You know what I mean? You just do. That's how you mentally survive. But there's a lot that's obviously not funny. People lost their homes. They lost everything. And it wasn't just a house that they lost. They lost memories. They lost history. They lost a sense of belonging because they lost their community. And, I really worry about Altadena, because Altadena was one of our shining stars of transitioning wealth from one generation to the next. You know, my generation didn't do so well with that transfer, evidenced by Crenshaw, Lamert Park. A lot of those areas didn't pass on the wealth, but Altatina did. And some of that transfer didn't happen in a complete way. You know that. I'm living in my grandmother's house, but I'd never changed the title. And now it's a question of grandma's gone. How do I prove I was even supposed to be in that house? So there's a lot of complications in Altadena that are not so much in Palisades. And so the income issue is different in Altadena as it is in Palisades too, although Palisades was not 100% wealthy. You had a lot of seniors who paid off that mortgage that are on a fixed income and no ability to rebuild. You had people living in mobile homes. You had, there were a lot of renters in Palisades, so, you know, people were grieving. And I'm quite familiar with the grieving process, and part of that is anger. And people need to direct that anger. And so, you know, a lot of that was directed at me. I didn't take it personally because I understand what this process is. But my job was to try to move as fast as possible, but recognize even though I think we have moved fast, that doesn't help somebody that's still out of their house. It's like you talk about how fast it is, and I got a piece of dirt, you know? So you have to constantly keep that in mind. So I just wanted to say I don't in any way, shape, or form take any of this lightly.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, when the fires happened, I think all of us were just trying to figure out what are we going to do? You know, how are we going to contribute? And I know a lot of people launched nonprofits. It made me so proud. A lot of people came together, and like I said, I was in your comments, and I was like, you know what, we got to have this conversation. So thank you for that. I'm going to go to my last question because I do want to open it up for all of you. And this is happening, and it's just so devastating to see it unfold, you know, on social media, on the news. You recently signed a powerful executive directive to protect immigrant communities during ICE raids. Can you walk us through what that directive includes and why it was necessary?
Well, first of all, let's talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, let's do that.
What we're all going through right now, I want you to take note of, because you will remember this period 20, 30 years from now. This is really history unfolding, horrible history. This is the third time in U.S. history that you've had federal intervention like this. The first time was the War of 1812. The second time was World War II, when they round up the Japanese. This is the third time. And what we had here that was unprecedented was the federal seizure of state power from a governor, federalizing the National Guard, deploying the military, like the Marines, who are trained to kill foreign enemies on foreign lands. They are not trained to deal with a protest in a city. And the way I describe, or I'm not going to say, the way we were depicted around the country is that the whole city was on fire, kind of like 1992. There's a lot of people here that don't remember 1992, but there's a lot of us that do. And the protest that happened over about a square mile, 4 blocks downtown, was nothing like 1992. It, to me, was like a Laker victory plus. I mean, what happens? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was a peaceful protest, and at the end of the protest, you had melee, you had vandalism, you had some looting that happened one day, and then it was blown all up. So when we had these masked men in unmarked cars, no license plate, tinted windows, no uniforms, jump out of cars and pull rifles on random people, you had a sense of terror and fear. So what I did in my executive directive was really directed toward the city workforce, so the city workforce would know how to address. If you are running one of our mini libraries, you need to know that you are within your rights to not allow ICE to come in, unless ICE has a warrant for a specific person that's there. So it was along those lines. Now, in that press conference, and this is what happens when you talk to the press, you better be very careful in what you say. So I mentioned something that actually has not been started yet, and it blew up like wildfire, which is called the Angelino card, which it will be a few $100s that goes to some of the families that feel they can't go back to work. That is not city money. That is not taxpayers' money, but a number of foundations got together, very similar to the fires, and said, we want to do this. And so the money will go to nonprofit organizations to distribute to immigrant families that feel that they cannot go out. But the sense of terror that people feel is just profound. And then the head of ICE said that one of their criteria was physical appearance. Now, all of us understand what that means. So if LA is 3.8 million people and about 50% Latino, that means 50% of the population of LA are now suspects. And you have Latinos who were born and raised here carrying their passports. Now that reminds me of South Africa. I remember when you had to carry a pass in South Africa, or in the South during U.S. apartheid, AKA Jim Crow. And so we are going through a historical period with a rogue administration that, in my opinion, has treated LA like a petri dish. They're practicing on us, and they are showing the rest of the country, we're going to come and kick butt in LA, and we're coming to you next. That, to me, is the message that is being sent to the country. Now, what I feel good about is that our city has been united. You can imagine in some cities, people would be like, yeah, take them. I don't care how you get them. Take them. Even though I'm sure there's people that might feel that way, there's no organized expression of that in this city. This city has stood united against what is happening because everybody could relate to it. And mind you, in our community, we understand that there are black immigrants. I mean, Belize, where do you think Belize is? Belize is in Central America. Haiti, and if you look at the raids that are happening in Florida, they look exactly like here, except for they're all Haitian. So we have to understand that we have a vibrant black immigrant community that is under threat as well.
And I think you said something really important about be careful what you say to the media, right? Press. That's why we're here today. So I know some of you have a press badge on or a media badge. It is so important that we tell our narrative, right? We tell our story, because if we just snip in Fox News and CNN and we're just going off of what they're saying, that's why we got the conversations that we do have in her comments, right? And so this conversation was so important because I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to come hear it from her and to also share it. This is so, so, so very important. I can't do it by myself. I need your guys' help with sharing these stories and getting these stories out. So we're gonna open it up to the audience for some questions. I think we need another mic. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Now, you know what I do if you guys are okay with this? I like to make sure everybody gets to ask a question. So I take notes, and I'll take like 10 questions at a time, if that's okay?
Start on this side.
And you know what, too? If you don't have a question and you just want to make a statement, that's fine. Otherwise, people go through all of these contortions. They really don't want to ask the question. They just want to make a statement, and they force themselves to get into a question. So whatever you want to say.
And say your name.
Why are you laughing, Tiffany?
Please say your name when you say your question, who you are.
Hello and good morning, Mayor Bass. My name is Amour Delus, and it's AMOURDELUS. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do. As a black woman, I am so proud of what you do in your services, your strength, your fearlessness, and what you do for this community. But my organization, the Monique Woolley Foundation, When Feeling Blue, Think Yellow, our question to you is in reference to mental health. And you kind of tapped into it a little bit, but we're the prevention part of it. And we'd like to very much to get your point of view and the mental health of the people today and what they're going through and their hurts, their pain, and how they're grieving. We feel that the Monique Woolley Foundation can be the community. We're talking about the community. We're talking about, us. our surroundings, because it's also suicide prevention, and a lot of times we sweep it under the rug. And so I'd just like to see what it is that that your point of view and how we can better serve, because our motto is it's okay not to be okay. That suicide is not the answer. So I'd just like to hear your point of view and how we can better serve our community and the Black community, and how we can make a difference and make an impact. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll go on this side.
I just want to make a statement. Franco Vega, Executive Director. Thank you, Mayor Bass. I want to personally thank you for housing over 20 current and former foster youth and shedding a light on the foster youth homelessness. Thank you.
Are you guys going on that side, or? Okay.
Hello, Mayor Bass. How you doing, Mayor Bass? I did it from the radio show. Quick question for you. As far as ISIS, you kind of addressed it a little earlier, but I wanted to know, like, eventually people that look like us are going to be the target. How do we go about preparing for that? And also, as far as that project downtown, like the building that got looted, what is the status on that? Are homeless people going to be placed in that building?
Take one on that side.
Good morning. My name is Phil Wilson, and I actually have a statement. I want to thank you, Mayor Bass, for your description of what was going on with ICE. You know, we talk about this as an immigrant problem. James Baldwin said, when they come for you in the morning, they'll come for me in the evening. And we need to be clear, and I'm glad you pointed out, not all immigrants are Latino, and they're picking up U.S. citizens, you know, and that, so this is already our problem, you know, that we are, you know, being picked up as well, you know, because this is very much a black and a brown issue, and so this is not a charity issue for us. You know, this is about us right now, and we need to be clear about that when we see these issues and these stories come up, that we think that it's about someone else, and it's not about someone else, it's about us.
Okay. Hi, I don't know if you could see me back here, Mir Harris. My question to you is for those of us who work with community organizers, as we're barreling towards authoritarianism as a nation, what would you say we do at the local level? Because as somebody who's a native, third generation here, not only do we remember 1992, we also remember when they wiped us out for freeways, right? So as we're seeing what's happening both at a national and a local level, how do we stay grounded? How do we stay vigilant? And how can we still remain faithful in our local government when clearly they're not playing by any rules?
Hey, Kyrie Walton, and I'm glad we're on the same topic. So my question is also about this topic. As people have already said, we know that ultimately we're going to be affected by this as well, these ICE raids. So my question is multi-pronged. What is the city doing in terms of making sure that everyone knows their rights? Like, I got trained months ago, because I knew this was coming, to be a Know Your Rights trainer, and have been doing that, but what is the city doing specifically? Also, what do you advise us to be doing right now so that Black people are prepared when they start rounding us up? Because we know that slavery is not illegal in this country, and we know that they're laying the groundwork for slavery. That's what Alligator Alcatraz is. That's why they have so many friends who profit off of prisons. So we know that that's laying the groundwork, because once you round up people who get our food in farms, who's going to get that? And we know that the president already has said that he would make the quote-unquote owners responsible. He literally said that after the Supreme Court passed the birthright, thing that they passed, where he can now choose to deport people who were born here. And so what do we need to be doing? Other question is, what are we doing to make sure LAPD is stopping kidnappings versus helping them? And also, with all of this happening, the world is looking at LA and like, we don't want to go there for FIFA or the Olympics. You know, if if they're trying to make this the battleground and they are obviously not Americans. So what are we doing to make sure that this is still a place people want to come for FIFA World Cup and the Olympics? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on this side. We want to get to all the questions, so if you guys can limit to one question per person.
Good morning, Mayor. My name is Craig Bowers. I'm a small business owner in the city. And every elected official always talks about small business are the job creators in a local economy. But it seems to me our conversation is always reactionary. A fire happens, we're going to fast track housing. Housing crisis happens, we're going to fast track affordable housing. But I think what often gets lost on people, there's only a finite amount of people in the bureaucracy that we can fast track. And everybody else is just left with, dealing with understaffed resources on behalf of the city. I've done battle with LADBS, LA Planning, LA Workforce Economic Development Department. I think we've got to, there's a Rick Cole article interviewed Rick Cole in the LA Times this week. I'm a third generation Angelino. I really think we've got to figure out some long-term, processes to how to make the city function better. And unfortunately, I think a lot of those things can't really happen in one term of a mayor's term. But I do think we can go on a direction in which we can improve the city, because if we improve small business, then we can improve the economic realities of so many of our citizens here. So I just say that as a statement and a question, but just leave you with that.
Hello. I'm gonna try to make this really small. My name is Joshua Hamm from South Central. Shout out Karen Bass. I'm an alumni of your program, Community Coalition. Got socialized through that, politicized through that. Man, I think this is a question for everyone, really. I'm from the inner city, and I see a lot of stuff that's been going on in the community. I'm in the mental health space as well, too. I think a lot of our stuff is rooted in trauma, and I would love for us to come together. I'm trying to get some community buy-in. So I'm thinking about a CDFI or a VC. I see what happened in Altadena, and I feel like, how much do we care about our neighbor as Black people? I feel like we don't show up enough. I feel like we don't support each other enough. We spend over $2 trillion a year as Black people. We have the economic power to come together and band together. We can talk about policy, community, equity, all we want, but if we don't trust each other and show up for each other, none of that stuff matters, you guys. I want us to be able to show up in a real way. We should be able to get community buy-in where a community burdens down. We should be able to go to our local community center or banking system and be able to support that Black family, incubate that Black family, and teach them how to be sustainable, right? So if they get a low equity loan with us, we should be able to sustain that family and help them pay the loan back, or they could be able to build their own house back up. I feel like we need saving from people that don't look like us. I could be wrong. And I want us to be able to save ourselves. I want us to be able to show up for ourselves, talk to our neighbor, and build community in a real way. We have the money in this space. If everybody just had a subscription model, we gave $10 right now. We're gonna spend it on Starbucks or something else. So we cannot say we have the money. I personally feel, this is an I statement, that we shouldn't have to go to government to build up communities, y'all. We keep looking for outside resources to come save us, that are never coming. They're taking our people to jail. They're incarcerating our people. They have very carceral policy to make sure that we are being pushed to these systems that's not gonna support us. My family's from Honduras, Panama. My family Afro-Latino too. My mom had to get a green card too. And they're not looking to come to save us. We need to save ourselves, and we need to come together. So when it comes next, who gonna put their money up to make sure that our friend get their house rebuilt? We could do GoFundMe all we want, but we have no governance system to show up for Black people where we need to incubate ourselves, what they did in the 1920s, and they blew that up. How are we gonna recreate that right here so we can be the model, since we're the biggest city in the country? Let's be that auxiliary example for the rest of the world to show that we can come and band together. Let's repurpose our dollars.
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, DJ Raina Day, with SiriusXM Holy Culture Radio, Channel 140. I am in a unique space here because number one, well, let me just first say this. I'm so happy to know I'm not the only person that pisses people off. Okay, trying to change some things. So that encouraged me as a young Latina trying to get things done and an LA native. But God put me in a very unique place of having a gospel hip hop radio show on SiriusXM So my crowd is more of like a purple. It's red, blue, right? I'm so tired of people thinking just because we're Christian, we don't care about the people anymore. We're just pro-Trump and we don't really care. As a Latina in LA, it's so important to me. But because I have this power on SiriusXM, 220,000 listeners every morning, what would you have me tell them that you are doing, and how important is your faith when you're tackling things like homelessness, when you're tackling things like kicking them out, which, thank you, by the way, I saw you kick them out of a space where they shouldn't have been, okay? Because I ain't afraid, so I got your back. And so I really appreciate you do that, because I'm in a also unique place being a very light skin. They realize when they let me in the room, they messed up, because I am Mexican, okay? But I have a shirt for you that says Bass Loves LA, because I know you do, so I'm gonna give that to you before we leave. But what would you say, encourages us people of faith to, what can I tell my people who are listening that you are doing and how that influences you?
Okay, we're gonna do two more. Is there one more over there?
Okay, can we make sure that these are actual questions where we have the mayor here?
Statements are welcomed as well. Okay, we're gonna do one more here, and I'm gonna do this person. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kathy J. Hood. I run a PR public outreach firm. I'm also on the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council, and Shine LA is just a meaningful initiative. So my question with Shine LA is, I know you guys are going through budget cuts. I know a lot of the initiative is leaning on the community partners. Could there be synergy of creating a committee or a commission board dedicated to beautification projects and cleanups? Right now, there's like a lot of committees for homelessness and other topics, but there could be something for beautification.
Thank you. We're gonna do one more.
Good morning, Mayor Bass. My name is Raquel Bowman. I'm right here. Raquel Bowman and Marissa Bowman told me to make it quick. I am the Associate Director of STEM for a program called Black College Success. It's an initiative of the LA Promise Fund. We support Black students in LA, getting them to college and through college, ensuring they persist. So my question to you is, what is the city doing to invest in early intervention for youth to prevent homelessness in the end? So that's my question.
Thank you. And we'll let you take it away, Mayor.
I have almost 3 pages of notes. I don't want to mess up your name, but you were the first one. Amor, amor, amor. Sí, entiendo amor. You were asking about mental health prevention and how are people feeling. I think since the first of the year, it's been a wave. People have been on an emotional roller coaster. I think that so many people, if they were not directly impacted by the fires, they know somebody who was. And they're watching their family member or their friend on that roller coaster of grief, which has them going up and down. Suicide, what really worries me is that I have friends, I think I can think of 3 mom and dads who've lost their Black sons to suicide in their late teens or early 20s in the last couple of years. It is a big issue in our community that is not talked about, and it makes me feel so sad because the mental health safety net here is so shaky. And, voters passed an initiative to really increase mental health facilities, and we all voted for it at the beginning of last year, March of last year. But they still are barely breaking ground, if any place, right now. So I feel like the money is there, the resources are coming, but they haven't arrived, and in the meantime, people's lives are threatened. And we have to resort to kind of self-help situations, which we know now so much more is needed. And then one thing that's important too is to distinguish responsibility. So I do take responsibility, even though it is not the city's responsibility. So that check that's coming ain't coming to me. It's not coming to the city, it's in the county. But we do collaborate because you can't really address our community unless you collaborate on every level of government. Franco, you mentioned housing. And this addressed actually the last question, which is about early intervention for youth to prevent homelessness. Well, the population that is most at risk to be homeless, and this is an example of how policy makes people homeless. Right now, it's viewed in the general public as that it's your fault that you're homeless. There's something that you did wrong. You made bad decisions in your life. People don't think about the systemic reasons, the systemic factors that push people on the street. So listen to this one. And you guys know this, but think about it. When you're in the foster care system cuts you off when you're either 18 or 21. And it's called emancipation, which even that word makes me mad. Because I don't care who you are in this room, if you are very wealthy, your 18-year-old cannot survive on their own without texting you, without you selling them whatever they need whenever they need it. And when things don't work out, they can come home to you. So what we do by policy to kids in the foster care system is we basically pack up their bags and put them on the street. But then you have community heroes like Franco and what he does on a day-to-day basis, saving our young people. And so we even know their names, addresses, and phone numbers, and we still, do this. By the way, you and I should talk about Ernesto. I've been following up one of the young men that we've worked with for years since he was just out of his teens, was recently shot. And I know you've been tracking him. Once in my life, you're always in my life. So anyway, so what happens when black folks are targeted? And, there was the building that was looted. It was a store, so there was no building that was looted that could then house people. I know that was a question that came up over here. So the looting took place, really, there were 2 incidences of looting on 2 different days, and then I imposed the curfew. But the looting that took place, it was businesses. I think it was a shoe store, a clothing store, and they attempted a jewelry store, but I'm not sure they got in there. Phil, thank you so much. When you talked about when they come for you, they're going to come for us. But now think about it now. They came for us on the day he took over. Okay? The first thing they went after was DEI Code Black. Even though we know diversity, equity, and inclusion applies even beyond race. It applies to sexual orientation, gender, et cetera. However, the focus was on us. He just summarily went through and fired people. The head of the military, the head of the Library of Congress, summarily did that. Now, that coincided with the fires. It also coincided with me, too, because when I was on my way back from Ghana, which was interesting about Ghana, because a few days before I left, it was big news I was going to Ghana, because the White House had issued a press release announcing that I had been asked to participate in the presidential delegation for the inauguration of the Ghanaian president. However, that got so distorted that by the time I landed, I was over there partying, and that I was the DEI mayor. And and then by the time he came in office, it was, you talk about, that wasn't even the comments, those were the headlines. The only reason why I won my election is because liberal white folks felt guilty. They knew they should have voted for the man who was more qualified, but since they wanted to be so woke, they decided to vote for the diversity hire. So they already came for us. And they still coming. But point well taken is that we don't know where this is going to go. So one of the things that I would recommend that we should do, and we kind of do this and know this, but I think we need to celebrate our diversity amongst black folks more. I don't think when we think of Belizeans, we think of them as being Latino. Well, where's Belize? It's Central America. Latin America, last time I checked, they more black people in Brazil than there are in the United States. So even our Ethiopian community, Jamaican, Nigerian, I mean, you name it, we have such diversity, and I think lifting up the diversity and all standing together and recognizing that it's, what do we used to call it? Same struggle, many fronts. The struggle is about justice. Injustice manifests itself in a variety of ways, but if you're truly about justice, then you fight injustice wherever it lands, because you know that our strength, and all you got to do is do the math. If we 9% of the population, Latinos are 50% of the population, Asians are about 25% of the population, who controls this area? It's folks of color. And so we need to band together. Ms. Harris, I didn't get your first name. Okay. I heard you back there. You wanted to know about the fact that our trajectory seems to be toward authoritarianism. So the way I would describe that, the way it's manifesting itself now, is we are supposed to have 3 independent branches, co-equal branches of government. We have the judiciary, we have the legislative branch, the House and the Senate, and then we have the executive branch. In my opinion, we really only have one branch of government now, because the judiciary was fundamentally changed in his first term. The legislative, you have the Speaker of the House and the head of the Senate, who went over to Pennsylvania Avenue and handed in their gavels and said, "You tell us what to do, boss." So really, power right now is all concentrated in the executive. The way out of that is that we have to take these seats back. It's going to be much harder to take the Senate back next year because the math doesn't work, but we should easily take the House back. And if we take the House back, then we can stop certain things. I know people are frustrated with Democrats in the House, and I have a lot of empathy for that, because I think that our folks don't understand how you have absolutely no power as the minority. Hakeem Jeffries, who will be the first black speaker when power does change, he can't even speak on the floor of the House of Representatives without permission. So we have expectations of what Democrats can do in Congress without actually recognizing that the rules say right now Democrats can't do anything. But we can fight, we can struggle. That's what we have always done, because we are unbelievably resilient people. Mrs. Wilson asked what the city is doing specifically for people to know their rights. And that was actually part of my executive directive. We were doing it anyway, but I was trying to strengthen and expand it. So not just, the executive directives were directed toward the city family, city workers, but before that, we had had a program of people knowing their rights for the general population. And we had been spreading that information on every platform and vehicle that we can. That is the most important thing we can do right now. And then making sure that people want to come here. Well, we'll talk about Shine LA some more, but part of building our sense of community and our strength, we want to lift up and prepare our city for the world coming here. And we want to constantly verbalize, we want you to come here, we welcome you. And I think it's going to be important. We've stood together, we've showed the world that we are not going to accept nonsense. I think that sends a good signal to the world that this is a place that welcomes you no matter where you come from, but much more that we could do. You know, the LAPD, in terms of the raids and the kidnappings, you know, well, first of all, we won a major court victory, and I hope it sticks. It's going to be appealed. So far, we've been a week with them not driving around, you know, like they were in the Wild Wild West, kidnapping people off the street. That's because we use every vehicle to fight, whether it's knocking on doors and winning votes, whether it's peaceful protests, or whether it's the courts. We have to use every tool in our toolbox. The one tool that is not in our toolbox and will never be in our toolbox is violence. The minute people throw a brick or commit violence, you are telling the administration, that's why we need the military here. You are giving them an excuse. Don't take the bait. Anyway, the idea of LAPD intervening and stopping ICE or these masked men from doing what they're doing, we got to think about that for a minute, because it sounds reasonable on the surface, but then becomes extremely complicated. because what you would have is you would have two different branches of law enforcement fighting each other in the streets. And so we have to look at other ways to deal with this, because we can't have that either. So to me, the best way to deal with it is to stop the kidnapping from in the first place. And if there is going to be resistance, it needs to be peaceful resistance. But there was a problem where people were calling 911 because they saw a kidnapping. I mean, how do you distinguish that? You know, especially if they're masked, if there's no uniforms, and all of that. So Craig, a small business owner. Craig, thank you very much. By the way, and we should follow up with you, there are a number of staff from my office here, and before we end, I want them to acknowledge and introduce themselves. But if you are having roadblocks in terms of getting in the city process, we would definitely like to be helpful. I read Rick Cole's article. I don't believe it's the doomsday that he points out, but I do believe, oh my God, after being here, I've only been here for a short period of time, 2.5 years, whew, the level of dysfunction in the city, oh my God. I describe City Hall culture with 2 words, slow and no. And I don't like either one of those words. But one thing that I would like to direct you to is that we are going to update our charter. And some of these things are written, and our charter is like the Constitution of the city. So a lot of the dysfunction in the city is in the Constitution. And so, and I know you know that intimately, but we are beginning the charter reform process, and your voice is needed there. We have an opportunity to make change. Joshua was talking about how we don't show up enough. Joshua? Coco, were you in Say Yeah? All right. Say what? Say Yeah is South Central Youth Empowered Through Action. One of my passions in life is the next generation, because I was so fortunate as a teenager, because I've been doing this since I was in middle school, okay? Nobody ever told me it was a job, though, so I worked in the medical field. I was like, oh, you get paid to do that? I didn't know that. You get paid to be a disruptor? Anyway, Say Yeah was started to recruit and train the next generation of leaders. And I'm proud to say one of our first Say Yeah members, we recruited her when she was 14 years old. And she is now in her mid-40s, I guess, and she runs Inside Safe, so our homelessness program. So she went through the ranks, you know, graduated, was working in labor for a while, but has dedicated her life to social change, just as I believe that you have as well. And so talking about people not showing up, and you know, you're so right. We always think of our deficits as opposed to what our assets are. And we always think about what we don't have and what we're missing. And I remember in the early days when I started Community Coalition, which was 35 years ago, I remember we would do these community surveys, and I found out that a lot of the community members weren't even aware of the assets we had. Talked about, we need this, we need that, and so we wound up spending a lot of time telling people what we already had. And I think more of that is absolutely warranted. That's why I like this place so much. So we should all invest in the gathering spot. DJ, you have asked what you should tell people about what we're doing. By the way, I'd love to come on your show. How about that? I'll tell them myself. All right. Make that happen. But you know, I mean, the spiritual part of me is, well, obviously it's rooted in well, maybe not obviously, but certainly Christian beliefs in my church. But it's also rooted in our ancestors. And I take such great pride and strength. I'll tell you a story. After Trump won the first time and we were all devastated, you know, I mean, we were. You talk about some mental health issues that happened then. Woo! We all lost it. So what I did was I went to our museum. I call it our museum, the African American Museum in Washington. And how many people have been there? Oh, I love that. Yay. So you know the basement starts our journey. It's the 256 years of enslavement. So I went to the basement and I spent 3 hours there. I read every exhibit, I watched every video, and I walked out of the museum like this. Because I said, what is my problem? I'm worried about somebody that's occupying across the street. And we've been through this for 256 years. Our ancestors survived this. And then after 256 years of enslavement, we survived 100 years of apartheid. And I'm worried about somebody that just got elected. And I take such strength from that. There's such strength from the Middle Passage. And we are the result of that, which means we survived that. And all of the millions of people that didn't. So I stuck my chest out and I haven't put it back since. That's what keeps me going. So Kathy J, you were talking about Shine LA. Thank you so much. You know, my job might be as mayor, but my heart is as a community organizer and activist. And so I always want to look for an activist element. There's a number of staff here today who serve as organizers in our community engagement department. And what I wanted to do as part of us preparing for the World Cup and the Olympics was to get the whole city involved. I don't want these events to happen only in some areas so that you come from around the world and you think LA is Beverly Hills, Hollywood, the beach, and that's it. I want people to know about the gathering spot. I want people to know about Adams Avenue. I want people to know about Lamert Park, East LA, East San Fernando Valley, all of our areas, because we actually represent the world. I don't think there's a country on earth where there's not a diaspora that is here. And so Shine LA is about getting the whole city involved and for people not to be passive and wait for these games, but to participate in getting the city ready. Now, by the time the Olympics come, it is estimated that we'll need 50,000 volunteers. So part of Shine LA is also about recruiting that volunteer base. But I love the idea of what you said, a community-based committee that could help build Shine LA. So I think that that's something that we should definitely think about. And then the last question I think I addressed in the beginning, and that was about preventing young people from falling into homelessness. So did I cover you? Did I misrepresent anybody? Did I get everybody in? Yeah. Good. Good.
All right, y'all ready for another round? Okay.
What'd you say? I don't know what happened. At what time? Yes, go ahead. Get
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a couple of questions. And please be brief, say your name, one question per person. Or statement, 30 seconds.
Okay, 30-second statement. It's A.D. Emerson, former Olympian, Paralympian.
Yes.
And
Wait a minute. Don't just say that.
she told me to be quick. I listened.
I know that, but you got to tell everybody what you just said.
Okay, yeah.
Who you are,
So-
what your sport was.
Yeah, so I met Mayor Bass a while ago, and I just want to say thank you. So, ran track here, I was here in '84. So you'll see a lot of my teammates, they'll be here, and it's such an honor, because I've known the effect that Mayor Bass has had. I'm going to speak quickly. Oh, she's looking at me. Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to say, so I ran track here with Bob Kersey, Jackie Joyner, Flo Jo, and all of them. I'm the first para-Olympian, okay? that they're finally going to recognize. I keep telling everyone I'm 29, but anyway, that's a lie. But I want to say to you, you've been here. You have really been a great motivator for people around the world, and you all need to really get prepared. What Mayor Bass and the rest of this city has done to get the Olympics here is an experience that you'll not ever have again. The world will be here. the world. And everyone who's going to be participating throughout LA is really going to be an awesome experience. So I want to say thank you. I saw you in Paris. What you did with bringing that flag back here, it really does take LA to a global level. And I just want to thank you for being an inspiration. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna go to that side.
Hi, Mayor Bass. I'm Reggie Tucker Seeley, owner of Health Equity Strategies and Solutions, a health equity consulting and research company. What are the top 3 things that the healthcare delivery system can do to be a better partner to help you address homelessness in Los Angeles?
Okay, we're gonna go right here. Please say your name, be brief.
Hello, Mayor Bass. My name's Kennedy. I'm a college student, and my question for you is, I want to applaud you for facing tyranny and talking truth to power. I applaud you for that. I've watched just so much corruption, all that stuff going on, and we're watching democracy die in the open. How does the younger generation stay hopeful? Because I'm being honest, we are not hopeful right now. So my question is to you, how are we gonna stay hopeful?
Going to the right.
Hello, over here. Hey, how you doing, Mayor Karen Bass? Thank you, Roxy, for having this event today. My name is Michael. This is Jamesa. We both previously was at Macedonia CDFI, which is in Watts. And one of the issues that we kind of ran into was there was access to education for entrepreneurs. Sometimes in underserved areas, there's not enough access to the education that's needed for business owners actually to be successful. And I want to know which way is right now the city of Los Angeles addressing those issues.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Bass, thank you again today for hosting this community conversation. My name's Tiana, and I'm with 99 Wayne LA, a safe space for community and culture pushers. And one of my questions today is, as a member of the community who lives and works here, there's often a disconnect between residents and policymakers. What do you see as the biggest blind spot between residents and the city government, and when it comes to understanding the community needs, and how are you addressing that? And secondly, how do you plan to hold federal agencies accountable and ensure transparency around these enforcement efforts?
Hello, Mayor Karen Bass. My name is Maisha Robinson. I'm the owner of the Brand Suite Agency in Los Angeles. And I wanted to make a statement because a young man brought up business education. I'm actually building a platform specifically for small business education in Los Angeles called the Ready Lab, in which helps you to be able to be ready for funding opportunities, grants, and contracts through business education. So I'm bringing on subject matter experts to be able to provide those courses, micro-learning, as well as deep learning tools for small businesses. So go to therevadylab.co.
That's right. Plug it, sis. Plug it. I'm sorry, I want to get Tanita Ballard's question really quick right here. Come over here, Tanita.
Thank you, Roxy. Hi, everybody. Hi, Karen Bass. My name is Tanita Ballard. I just wrapped up my fellowship with LA County, the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Department. I'm also an adjunct professor at USC, business owner, and I'm naming that because as Black women, many people in the room, we wear many different hats. But I advocate for us speaking up for ourselves and self-care. So my question is about Karen. When Karen's at home, how does she care for herself? And then secondly, how could we support you as the people in the room?
Hello, Mayor Bass. My name is Alton Petrie with Jungle Tigraphy TV. Thank you. Yeah. We cover everything in the city, the good, the great, the bad, the evil. And I know that the stats say gang violence and overall gun violence is going down over the decades of LA. But here in South LA, I'm reporting on crime like every day. And so my question is, what can we do to penetrate the culture of gangs, but without it being criminalized in terms of prevention? I have my thoughts and theories, but I would love to hear yours.
Good morning, Mayor Bass. Good morning, Roxy, representing Flint, Michigan, back there, homie. My name is Dr. Kerry Neal. I am the Chief Change Agent for an organization called Black Love Reimagined. I just recently completed my dissertation, and it talked about looking at the social and structural impediments that preclude black men from entering the teacher profession. So there is research out of Johns Hopkins University that suggests just the presence of a black male in the classroom, just the presence, doesn't say he had to be this brilliant teacher, just the presence dramatically closes the achievement gap with black boys that continue to fall off the academic cliff. And we know that that third or fourth grade is where it's critical for literacy scores, and that information is used to project how they build prisons. So my question is, what are some intentional efforts that's taking place in the city of Los Angeles to recruit more black men to enter the teaching profession? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bass. My name is Trey Brown. I am the senior business coach at VSCDC. Thanks for coming over last year. Appreciate you. My question is, I have a background in tech, and what I do focus on a lot is artificial intelligence, helping the youth to kind of understand it as a tool and not to be so scared of it in our community. It's going to change the way we work and live in the next 3 to 5 years tremendously. We have been working with different vendors to kind of get the resources to optimize that, because what we've been able to see is that there's a lower cost for these students and or young individuals who want to start a business, don't necessarily know how to do it, and AI is such a tool that helps to maximize that like nothing we've ever seen before. So my question is I know there's LA Optimized, I'm aware of that, but I was just curious as to if there are any more tools and or resources that we can use as a city to maximize the artificial intelligence transition for black and brown children in the city.
One more on Nicole's side.
Hello, my name is Marquise Akins. I'm a community activist in Los Angeles from the Crenshaw area. My question is, I heard you speak on the homeless problem, and I think that a lot of times with individuals in our public sector and our political world, they aren't tapped into what's really like the boots on the ground. So I really want to know, what's the vetting process for these nonprofits that receive funding for work for nonprofits, for Skid Row and for homelessness? Because most of the time, the organizations that's really on the boots on the ground that I work with and a lot of other organizations work with never receive funding. They always have an issue with getting funding, and the ones that come out probably once or twice a year for TV, they always have majority of the funding. And I know California and Los Angeles gave billions of dollars to help the homeless problem, but most of the people that are actually really working and doing the work for Los Angeles have no funding. So.
Roxy, your husband has a question.
Thank you.
Just
Thank
one
you.
more.
Good
It's
morning,
husband.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I had to sneak
Priorities.
My bad, y'all. well, thank you, Mayor Bass, for being present. We, as a community, I speak for all of us. We appreciate your attendance today. You could have been anywhere doing something else, but you're here with us having this conversation. So shout out to you. Shout out to my beautiful wife for making this happen. There you go. Okay, so I'm about to ask a question that is not related to what anybody else asked. So, Mayor Bass, with Bitcoin gaining global recognition as a decentralized and inflation-resistant asset, would your administration consider exploring the creation of a small Bitcoin reserve for LA, similar to how cities like Lugano and regions like El Salvador have integrated it into their financial frameworks as a hedge against inflation and to potentially empower undeserved communities with financial access and education?
Well, you are correct. That's a different one.
Not to shoot my shot, but thank you for allowing me that last question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. For our Olympian, we are so proud of you, and I am proud that this will be the first time in 2028 that LA hosts the Paralympics. And I will tell you, having gone to Paris and gone to both the Olympics and the Paralympics, I have to tell you, the Paralympics is really something. Both are inspiring, but I was more inspired by the Paralympians. The challenges that people have and still maintain athletic excellence is unbelievable. So we are very excited that you are here. So Reggie, you were asking what are the top 3 things that the healthcare system can do regarding homelessness. First of all, you pushed my button. In another life, I was a nurse, and then I was a PA. I'm trained in family medicine, worked at County General Hospital, and worked with people who were unhoused in the 80s. And I think that what happens is when we take someone from the street and put them in a motel, a community-based organization that the gentleman back there was referring to takes over. They provide 3 meals a day, security, and hopefully a visit, from a social worker. There's nothing there for health per se. I happen to believe that the minute you come off the streets, you need a full physical, including labs, and 3 areas that are consistently neglected are eyes, ears, and teeth. And here we provide 3 meals a day, and I've seen situations where meals are passed out and people have no teeth. What are they supposed to do with the meals? Because, if you use meth too long, you lose all your teeth. And so no one pays attention to dental or eyes or hearing. So those are, to me, the top thing is a general physical, labs, and then those 3. And all of that is missing. Kennedy, you were talking about how to stay hopeful. I think that I got your name right. It goes back to what I was saying before. I hope that what will help give your generation hope is really becoming knowledgeable about who has come before you and what your responsibility is. I feel an unbelievable amount of responsibility, one, in this position, and then, of course, holding up as the first woman, second African American. But all of us should feel the responsibilities of our past because we have been given the baton, and then our responsibility to future generations. But recognizing that you're on an emotional roller coaster through this. This is tough times. And so sometimes you might need to take a step back, but you can't take a step all the way back. And I worry about this notion that black people are deciding, and especially black women, are deciding, well, look, we worked, we lost that election that we should have won, so now I'm just going to worry about myself. I do think self-care is important, but you take care of yourself, but you got responsibility outside of yourself. And by the way, and I say this to everybody in general, because I do want to end by making a pitch, because I would like you to stay involved. I would not like this to be a one-off. I would love for you to invite me to do this kind of thing in your organization or your house, or because and especially, I don't want people to ever think that I ignore our community, because as I started, I'm here because of who's on the street. I'm here because of how crime has impacted our community. And so I started an Office of Community Safety, which is about crime prevention and intervention, because I believe in a comprehensive approach. This also addresses the gang culture that was spoken to a little bit later on, is that we have intervention workers. I've always believed in redemption and second chances, and doing what we can to bring people who have been incarcerated back into the mainstream, because one of the problems of mass incarceration is that while we were going through that era in the 90s, politicians passed all these laws that continue to block people when they get out. So it's like you serve a life sentence. Part of it you serve in jail, and then you serve it the rest of your life, because you can't get a job, you can't get a place to live, you owe child support, all of these barriers are put up that you will wander back into a life of crime unless there can be something that pulls you out and provides you second chances. So that was a big investment from my administration. I might not run around carrying a red, black, and green flag, but I'm very, very clear about how parts of my administration, small business is absolutely critical. So making sure that when these games come, that our community is able to benefit from the contracts. We know about the contracts. We push our business community, because when we survive and do well in business, then we hire our own. Sometimes not enough, but we do hire our own. And we do have opportunities for education around business. We have a whole economic development department and a lot of resources for small business within the city. What we don't have is a ton of money. We do have a little money, but not a ton of it. But it's more access, especially to how you can contract in the public sector. And let me see, Michael, I answered that about business education. Tiana, the disconnect between, or the blind spot between elected officials, how do you hold future agencies accountable? And, I think there is a blind spot a lot of times, and I do think it's critical to hold elected officials accountable, and the way to do that is in avenues like this. I happen to love this. Not everybody does, but I do. And I think that elected officials should do this, and you should call on them to do this. And they should be able to tell you what they're working on, what their goals are, what legislation they are focused on. Maisha, well, you made your statement and you made your pitch. I think it was readylab.gov. Was that Maisha? Okay. Oh, code. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, you'd be in government. Tina, what do I do for self-care? What do I do to maintain my sanity? Oh, Benita. Tanita. I'm sorry. Try to get people's names right. That's one thing I do. No, I like to say two things that I do love to do is swim and bike ride. I tend to have less an opportunity to do that. And I only bike ride on the beach, by the way. I ain't riding in traffic. That little white line. But I love to swim. And by the way, family and friends are always important to me. I am never too important, never too busy for my friends and family, and especially, the young people I've worked with over the years, who I tell you are not young anymore. Some of them are, in their 40s. So I think I addressed the gang violence issue and our Office of Community Safety. Dr. Neal, you were talking about what are we doing to recruit African American men as educators. Actually, I'm sorry to report, on the city level, we are not. The mayors of certain cities like New York and Chicago are in control of education. In Los Angeles, I actually have no role in education. It is something that I know, I appreciate. We do have a robust network of black educators, though. We have Patrice, who is a member of the school board from Pasadena. Patrice McKenzie said she will talk to you. She's on the school board in Pasadena, but she also, are you still working for a school board member in Los Angeles? So she could directly answer that question for you. And then Trey Brown, you talked about a business coach and AI focus. I mean, I think that's a wonderful idea and something that we could incorporate in the city. Will you start with me? Would you tell me about that? I'm trying to understand artificial intelligence. LA Optimize is your group. And then Marquise was asking about the vetting process for nonprofits. So, I would like to know what organizations that you're talking about. The city does some of that, but primarily the organizations that have the contracts are vetted by the county in the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. I think in the future that might change. We do some amount of vetting, but basically we issue the checks, but a lot of the contracts are actually with the county. But if there's some organizations that we are missing, I would definitely like to know about it. And I just don't know much about Bitcoin, so yeah, okay. See, two things. You got to teach me about artificial intelligence, then you got to teach me about Bitcoin. It sounds like counterfeit to me. I mean, I know it's not. I'm just joking. Like I said, you have to have levity. You have to. You want to know about self-care? Levity. Having fun with this. You know, one of the things that I love about interacting with a group like this is just, you know, we're dealing with serious stuff, but we can also do it in a joyful way. And it is very, very important to do that. So let me just, you know, continue with the. Uh-oh.
And I've requested the mic several times, but it seems to disappear.
Well, you just took it.
Because we all have questions, and I respect that. But here's my question. What are we doing about our seniors? We are all getting older, whether you believe it or not. I see seniors suffering. What are we doing about it?
Well, you know, you are so right. Do you know that the fastest growing sector of the homeless population are seniors? Yes. Overwhelmingly black women? Yes. And who worked in the service industries, no pension, maybe a 401k, rent goes up, family's not there, and they're on the street. They tend to be the invisible homeless until they deteriorate so much that you see them on the street. So that is a big focus of the work around homeless. We do have a Department of Aging, and so we do have specific programs around seniors. Much, much more we could and should be doing, and we do some of this in collaboration with the county that has a much more robust Department of Aging than the city does. So appreciate that very much. So let me just say I mentioned that I would love to do this. Part of, you know, obviously there's an election coming up, but I would like to, just in terms of grassroots participation, if you want to do a Zoom with me, if you want me to come to your community or neighborhood, please let me know. I would really like to do that. I would really like to appeal to you to promote on social media and to share my Instagram, or, you know, just promote. Were you guys going to do that? Am I taking that away? You laughing like you're supposed to.
I think Roxy has some calls to action for your media. But
Excuse me.
continue.
You got it.
Yeah, continue.
You got it. Continue. Yeah.
It actually is much better if it doesn't come from me. But anyway, especially the social media part. You'll clean that up for me? Okay. But participate in Shine LA. There's so much we need to do. And by the way, for the young woman, Tiana Kennedy, one of the most important things to do is do something physical. Come to a Shine LA. Nothing restores your sense of purpose than being with a group of people that is doing something concrete. I have found over the years when people go through these slumps politically that we get out. The other thing I did after I came back from that museum is I started a group, what we did was we started working in 2017. 2017, right when he came in. We went out every weekend door knocking, and we took 2 seats back. It was the Katie's, Katie Porter and Katie Hill. And we went out and, you know, and we did that. And that restored people's sense of hope. Good. So more of that. And bring your friends. You want me to come to LMU? LMU's close to my heart. I'd be happy to come to LMU.
All right, well, in regards to social media, please publish a reel, a feature, editorial, covering community conversations. Be sure to tag Mayor LA, Karen Bass LA, and use the hashtag Community with Karen Bass to join the citywide conversation. Again, forget them comments. Man, listen.
Clap back.
Listen.
Clap
Okay,
back.
let's show up in the comments then.
Clap
you know,
back.
let's do some fact checking, okay? Gracefully. But let's do some fact checking. Let's educate the bots and the haters, okay?
Clap back.
And the scapegoaters. But social media is really, really important. It's dear to my heart. You know, doing Law Pi, I realize what it is that I want to do, and I want to be a yeah, Law Pi. I realize I want to be a political media consultant, okay? So this is the start of that, right? And so before we end, I just want to definitely say some thank yous. I want to take a moment to extend, my deepest gratitude to you. I'm so thankful for you showing up today, you believing in my mission. Your leadership is so important to all of us, and I'm glad you guys were all here to witness this. I also want to thank my incredible team for making this event possible. You're going to keep hearing me talk about Marissa and Nicole, their dedication to this whole situation. My Law Pi sisters really showed up for me. And at this time, I'd like to invite Marissa Bowman, Nicole, Dr. Ray, Krishanda Robinson, Sophia, Tanita, Michael, Deandra, and Chris to the stage. Where's Michael at? Michael, where are you at? Come on. Yeah, you. Yeah, come over here. So I would like for you guys to give them a round of applause. They are amazing. Marissa, there you go. Thank you so very much. I love giving people their flowers. It's just so very important to me. When you guys show up for me, I'm going to show up for you. Okay, listen. Sophia. Chrissy, there you go. Miss Ballard. This is fun. Chris. Deandra. And can I have my flowers? These are for you, Mayor Bass. We want to give you your flowers. Thank you all for everything. I appreciate you. This is just the beginning. This won't be the last one. Please take advantage of the resources in the room. Please meet with Mayor Bass's team. Figure out how you can do this thing yourself, okay? Yes, we can get a picture.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. I just want to highlight some of the people in the room. We have Andrea Green in the corner. She's from the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure. We have Marion Inslee. She's from the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure. And we have Chris and Elliot from the Mayor's Office of Community Safety.